Hi and welcome to the Home Assistant running on Synology in Docker. Today we're going to tackle with the SSL certificate in Home Assistant. We'll start in a couple of seconds. Today we're going to continue where we left in the previous episode. In previous episode we created DocDNS entity, meaning that now we have external URL on our dynamic IP address, and we also created Letsencrypt certificate for our Synology. Today we are going to implement this certificate inside our hassio, inside a Syno community package from Frederica, and we will also implement it in a much easier way inside our Home Assistant core. So let's get cracking. First thing we have to do is we have to verify where our location of the certificate is, and for that we have to go to our PuTTY. Let's open our server connection and let's log in here. If everything is as it should be, the certificate should be in a location called user syno at certificate system default. So let's go there. Change directory user syno at certificate. Let's change to folder system and let's list what we have here. We have folder default. Let's go to default. And here we have our certificate. We have private chain, full chain, and certificate. Now let's create a script that will check if there is a newer version of the certificate, and if there is a newer version, it will copy it in the predefined folder. So let's go back to Synology. Once we are back in Synology, let's go to Control Panel. Let's go to Task Scheduler. And here we will create a new task. It will be user-defined script. Okay, let's call it certificate copy. Let's schedule it. We will run it daily. And okay, we can leave it as is. And let's copy here the script. I will be posting complete script in the description of the video. This is a script that was not done by me. This is a script. I will also post a link for the original author of the script. I myself am using just pure copy script, meaning I'm copying all the contents of the folder default into the folder where Synology expects it. But this script has a little bit more logic in it. First verifying if there is a newer version. And if there is not a newer version, then it skips copying. If there is a new version, it copies it over the existing SSL certificate, and it also restarts our Home Assistant. Before we continue, you will notice that there is a difference between this script and how I created my folders. So I created additional folder called Home Assistant, where I have hassio folder, and those are the internal folders that Home Assistant sees. So this is a Home Assistant configuration folder. We have add-ons, we have backup. So if we do snapshots, they go into the backup folder. And we also have SSL folder. Our goal is to copy those certificates for the hassio into the SSL folder. Let's copy the script. Okay, here's the script. So source of the SSL file is the user syno at certificate system default folder. This is what we also verified that our certificates are located to. And next it wants to copy them to volume 1 docker hassio SSL. According to my structure, I'm not using this structure. I'm using separate Home Assistant folder for hassio. I will remove this docker and change it with Home Assistant. And the rest is okay. So we have hassio and we have SSL. So this is a logic that is verifying if there is a newer version or not. If there is, then we copy full chain and private key. We change the owner and we change the user rights for those, for both full chain and for the private key. Also, here is the command that tells Syno Web API service to execute Syno Docker container restart for Home Assistant, and this is the name of the hassio folder, hassio container. Okay, we can click OK, and we can also test the script. Let's select only this certificate copy and let's press run. Yes. If everything is okay, we should see here certificates. And here they are. Next part for the hassio version of the installation is to go to our Home Assistant, and inside Home Assistant we have to specify where our certificates are located and that we want to use them. So for that, let's go to Home Assistant. Now in Home Assistant, let's go to Visual Studio Code or configuration editor that you are using. And let's go to our configuration YAML file. Inside configuration YAML file, let's add following commands: http, and here we will define two variables. One is called SSL certificate and the other one is SSL key. So SSL certificate. We have to put here the path to the SSL certificate. And from previous step, we remember where we put it. This is SSL folder. And the name of the file is fullchain.pem. Next variable is SSL key. And as previously is located in SSL folder. And the name of the file is privkey.pem. This is it for the SSL certificate. We can now save this. We can go to configuration, server control, check configuration, and we can restart our server. If everything is okay, after the server is rebooted, we should have HTTPS connection, meaning that we can now use our SSL certificate for accessing our Home Assistant, which is very important if you want to expose it. But remember that this is a minimum requirement, meaning that it doesn't prevent anybody from accessing your Home Assistant, especially if you do not have some strong password. And also you should definitely use IP ban. IP ban is used to automatically ban IP addresses when they try to log in and they fail multiple times. So for example, normal should be 3 to 5 errors and your IP is banned. As you can see, we still have a problem with our Home Assistant. It says connection lost, reconnecting. But if we want to go to the HTTPS 192.168.1.201 with the port 8123, we have connection, but it says that our certificate is not valid. The reason is pretty simple. The certificate is attached to our domain name from the duck DNS, so meaning the full URL, and now we are accessing it with the internal IP address. So this is normal. Let's click on proceed, and here we have to log in. There could potentially be one issue. Let me show you what can also happen. If, for example, you have issues with the certificate, and you will see it like this, go to certificate, click on the name, and potentially you could see Synology.com certificate, which is also not valid certificate. That means that you have either two certificates or that somehow your Synology hasn't stored the new certificate where it should be located. How do we fix this? Let's go back to our PuTTY. And in PuTTY, let's see where our certificate ended if it's not where we wanted it to be. cd user syno etc certificate. Okay, and let's see all the other folders we have here. So we have system folder, and inside system folder we have default folder. This is the folder where we copied our certificate from, but there is also archive folder. You will not be able to enter archive folder unless you use sudo -i to elevate your privilege. I already did this, so let me go inside the archive folder. Okay, let's list what we have here. And here we can see two folders. One is the Synology folder, where Synology certificate is located, and the other one is probably the name of the folder where certificate that you created with Letsencrypt is located. So let's check it. cd kti5vl. Let's see the content of this folder. And here, as previously, we also have certificate chain, full chain, private key, and renew JSON. And this renew JSON will help us see what certificate is this. So let's type vi renew.json. And as you can see, this folder here is where we have our certificate. So what would you do? Let me close this. So we close it like this. Instead of the user syno at the certificate system default, we would type user syno at the certificate underscore archive and the name of this folder. We will copy this. Let's go back to Synology. Inside Synology, let's go to our script. Let's edit it. Let's go to task settings. And we would just replace this system default with the folder name where our certificate is located. Let's press OK. Let me delete those two files. And let's run it. Yes. Okay. And we now have those two files that are now copied from the other folder, meaning not system default where it should be, but from the folder where we created it using Letsencrypt. Okay. So this is how you do it in hassio. It's really pretty straightforward. If you're using Home Assistant core, it's almost the same. First thing that you have to do is, once again, you have to find where your certificate is located. So it should either be here in the system default folder, or it should also be in the one of the folders in the archive folder. Let's go back to Synology. In Synology, we have to create a script. More or less, this is the same as we did here. So let's create a new script, schedule task, user defined script. We will call it core certificate copy. So we know that this one goes to the Home Assistant core. Schedule, we can leave it as is. And for the script, we will copy the same script that we used previously, but we will make a slight adjustment. So first thing is that we have to adjust where our certificate is located. Let's presume that is the same archive folder, so we will remove it and change it with this one. And next thing is we have to specify what is the destination. So for the Home Assistant core, I'm using this folder. So it's Docker Home Assistant with a dash in between. And we want to copy the certificate there. Home Assistant. So this will be inside our configuration folder. So we have a new folder for where the certificate is located. We have destination folder. Rest of the script stays the same. And the next thing that we want to do here if you want to run this script as is to change the name of the Docker container. Let me open up my Docker here. And as you can see, I have supervisor going up and down. That's not important right now. So I have two home assistants. One home assistant is the result of hassio. So this is the default name for the hassio installation. And in the first episode, I decided to use home-assistant for the name of home assistant. So now we have two distinct parallel Docker containers with the same, almost the same application. Please select and please use in this script name of your home assistant. So for me, this is home-assistant. And if you press OK, the script is now ready to run. I myself will not run it because you do not want to have two parallel home assistants running with the host network configured, because that would clash in terms of the ports and you really could have a lot of fun figuring that out. So let me go to this core script. I will edit it. And I will definitely remove this line. Okay. In order to finish the configuration, what I have to do is I have to go to the home assistant. In home assistant, I have to go to configuration.yaml file. And here we have to specify the same thing. And here in the configuration.yaml file, what we have to do is we have to add HTTP. And next thing is we have to define two variables. One will be SSL certificate. And since we do not have SSL folder, we have copied it to the configuration folder, so it will be config. And the name of the file. Same goes for the SSL key. Its folder is config. Name of the file is privkey.pem. And that's it. You have additional possible variables that you can enter here in the HTTP configuration. One I would definitely recommend if you want to expose your configuration or home assistant to the internet. It's base URL. Here you have to specify your full URL, base URL. Next, also that I would definitely recommend for you to enable if you want to expose your home assistant are two following variables. So one is IP ban enabled, meaning that you want to start banning people if they enter the password incorrectly. And the second one is threshold. The number should be up to you, but I would recommend it to be between 3 and 5, meaning if somebody tries to log in and fails 3 or 5 times, that IP address is banned, and the only way for you to enable that IP address to try to log in once again would be to delete the contents of ipban.yaml file that would be created. Here I do not have it because this system is not exposed, will not be exposed, and I simply do not have it here in the configuration folder. Before we finish this episode, let's test if everything is working. Let me save this file. Let's go to the package center. And this is it for today's Home Assistant running on Synology in Docker. If you like this episode, please give me a thumbs up. If you have any kind of a comment or a question in regard to this video or any other video, you can of course find me in the Discord. A link to Discord is in the description. All the steps and all the code that I used here is also in description of this video. If you still haven't subscribed, please subscribe and hit the bell button so you get notified on the future updates. And I'll be seeing you next time. Until then, bye bye and have fun.